All right. I am not sure whether or not we actually got started in this broadcast because I just clicked the green button. And so I might have been sitting here just talking and nothing happened. Let me turn off Periscope because I know we did get that one recorded, but I may not have gotten the broadcast recorded on the live one. So that's because I didn't click the button. So give me just a moment and we'll give you a short recap of what we talked about. And it looks like the phone isn't working, so we'll try to get that done. All right. So what we talked about today was Revelation 1:7. We were covering whether or not this text has been fulfilled or whether it's fulfilled in the future. We gave a background passage from Matthew 24:30 and from Zechariah chapter 12, verses 10 through 14. The text says, "Behold, every eye will see him, even those who pierced him, and all the tribes of the land will mourn because of him. Even so, amen." Now, when you look at that text, you have to consider that it is found within the context of something that was imminent, shortly to come to pass, Revelation 1, verses 1 through 3. And it was written to the 7 churches in Asia, and therefore they would have understood that the text would have been fulfilled in their lifetime. But we have the same parallel text in Matthew 24:30, which makes it very interesting because that text tells us that all the tribes of the land will mourn. They would see the sign of the Son of Man coming, of the Son of Man in heaven. Then all the tribes of the land would mourn, and they would see the Son of Man coming on the clouds with power and great glory. So the coming on the clouds with power and great glory falls within that framework of the Lord saying this generation will not pass till all these things take place. And if that is the case, then what we have is clearly the fact that Revelation 1:7 is fulfilled within the time frame of the destruction of Jerusalem. Now, secondly, what we have is, or thirdly, I guess I should say, what we have is the background text for Revelation 1:7, which is Zechariah chapter 12, verses 10 through 14. And in that chapter, we identify those who pierced him and the mourning that was taking place. What this is telling us is that it was going to be the tribe of Judah, the people of the southern kingdom, who were involved in the fulfillment of this text, because he says, "And I will pour on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplications. Then they will look on me, whom they pierced. Yes, they will mourn for him as one mourns for his only son, and grieve for him as one grieves for a firstborn. In that day there shall be a great mourning in Jerusalem, and like the mourning in Hadad Rimmon in the plain of Megiddo." Well, the first part of that would mean that they would mourn as one mourns for his only son. If you go back and read Exodus chapter 12, start at verse 29, you will see that all the house of Egypt mourned because of the death of the firstborn. And this was going to be a mourning like that. So it was going to be the whole land that was mourning. Next, you see from 2 Chronicles 35 that I think starting at around verse 20, where Josiah went out to fight against Pharaoh Necho in the battle of Carchemish when Pharaoh warned him and told him not to come. And he ignored that warning and went on, and as a result, he was killed in his chariot. There was a mourning for Israel throughout all the land. And that's the context that that John and Matthew carry over to the New Testament. Then in Daniel chapter 7, you have the Lord coming with clouds at the time that the court is seated when the great white throne judgment occurs. So when he talks about they would see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven and sitting on his throne in the heaven, that is the throne that was set up, according to Daniel 2:44 and 45, a stone cut out of the mountains without hands. This forms the basic framework, the coming in the clouds, the sitting upon the throne of Matthew 25, and it doesn't end in verse 34 or 35. It goes all the way through the chapter. And as a result, would encompass other time statements in the 25th chapter that are not necessarily found in the first part. So this is the meaning of Revelation 1 and verse 7. All the tribes of the land would mourn, Zechariah 12, and then in Daniel 7, you have the coming in the clouds at the time of the great white throne judgment. Those are the background texts. But when you see them placed in Matthew 24, he quotes both from Daniel as well as from Zechariah and says, assuredly I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away until all these things take place. So that's the gist of the broadcast. Just wanted to give you that short recap. Appreciate those of you who joined in. If you have a question, go ahead and type it into the chat box, because otherwise we're going to be closing this broadcast. We failed to turn it on initially and missed the entire broadcast, so I thought I'd do just a very short recap to just let you know the essence of what was said. But if you have a comment that you want to make, feel free to make that, and then I'll respond to it. All right. Well, with that, no questions. I want to thank you for tuning in, and we're going to close it at this point. So have a great one.